Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very special edition of Wrestlerant HD. I am sad to have to inform every professional wrestling fan that as of tonight, Sunday night, September 18th, we have lost a very special member of the professional wrestling family, Bobby the Brain Heenan. There is no end to the contribution that Bobby the Brain Heenan has made to the professional wrestling business. Whether he was in the AWA or in any venue, NWA, WCW, and of course the World Wrestling Federation, Bobby the Brain Heenan will be sorely missed. Many of you are familiar with this sign behind me that says Wrestlerant HD. And many of you know, of course, that I haven't been around to do this. I just don't do it anymore for reasons of my own personal doings. But I want to make this a very special Wrestlerant HD. I want to talk about Bobby the Brain Heenan and what he meant to the professional wrestling business. Not only to the business itself, but to the people he worked with. Whether he was for them or against them in the world of professional wrestling. When you think about managers in professional wrestling, one name and one name only comes to mind: Bobby the Brain Heenan. Of course, there are others, but none as, no pun intended, smart, none as brilliant as Bobby the Brain Heenan. Whether it was his wit on the microphone or his skill as a manager at ringside, he made sure that every professional wrestling fan got what it was that they wanted to see. Sometimes he'd be in the ring with Hogan or the Warrior or any babyface, and Bobby would do his pratfalls in the ring. When it got to the point that Bobby could no longer do those pratfalls, he relied on his vocal skills on the microphone to keep us intrigued and interested in what he would say next. Early on in his career, fans began to adopt a chant that he would forever have to live through as a wrestling manager. And that chant was Weasel. If you're like me and you were a fan, you chanted that chant. Weasel, Weasel. Well, tonight, in many of our hearts, we're not chanting Weasel. Because if you miss him like I do, in your heart, there's a brainstorm. Bobby the Brain Heenan, one of the single greatest professional wrestling managers ever. If you didn't know how to do it, you watched Bobby Heenan to learn how. If you didn't know how to say it, you listened to Bobby Heenan to learn how. I can name names of great professional wrestlers who have been under the tutelage of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Some you may not think so great, but nonetheless, they were under the tremendous tutelage of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Whether it was the Missing Link, Big John Studd, Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, Mr. Perfect, the Barbarian, the Brooklyn Brawler. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Bobby Heenan not only had what it took to make his wrestlers get to the top. But Bobby Heenan also had what it took to sell great pay-per-views. You know, we're all familiar with Mean Gene Okerlund telling us that the next great pay-per-view would be the greatest pay-per-view ever. But if it were not for Bobby the Brain Heenan, those pay-per-views would not have sold. This video is a short video, but it's my way of saying to Bobby Heenan and his family, thank you from the bottom of this fan's heart for the many years that you've given me and the other fans. We will miss you, Bobby the Brain Heenan. We love you. And tonight, we salute you.